Tuned into the Shadowsphere. Welcome to the Shadowsphere, where the whispered truth comes in loud and clear. Laugh in the dark as the clues appear. Yeah, we shine that light in the Shadowsphere.
Thanks for tuning in and welcome to the Shadowsphere. Scals, hit record.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Welcome to the Shadowsphere. I am Shadow. This is episode number 8. I am joined by the founding father of TFC, Total Fucking Chaos. He is the outsider. He is Will Carroll. How's it going, my guy?
Did you really have to put Tim Hortons in the cartoon in the beginning? Are you that Canadian that you had to do that? You just had to do that?
Hey, man, it's better than Duncan, and I live by that.
I agree. I'm actually not a Duncan guy. I'm a Tim's guy as well. So, but I live in Rochester, which is not that far from Canada. So I've always felt somewhat Canadian, at least a part Canadian. Always.
You're not that far, so you might as well be Canadian. I mean, you're just outside, a couple hours out of Buffalo?
Not less than an hour. It takes me like 2 hours to get up to like where you.
Yeah, you're Canadian.
Yeah, I feel Canadian.
I've interviewed your faction member, or one of your whipping boys, as I will call them, that Kyle. Great talent that you have under your belt, man. He is just a machine.
He is, absolutely.
Now, I've barely spoken to you. We've conversed over social media. Man, where does this start for you? Like, how far back does wrestling go for you?
I can remember watching wrestling when I was a little kid. I can remember more specifically going to WWF shows at the War Memorial in Rochester, and it must have been before kindergarten, so it was late 80s. I can remember back to that. Damn. So I've watched wrestling my entire life.
You gone through some great decades and some boring decades.
It's all fine. I'm a fan. I pick and choose what I want to see. Nowadays, you really can just watch whatever you want. There's so much content nowadays that you couldn't keep up with it today if you tried.
No, it is hard. I mean, my podcast partner Scals, he intakes it 7 days a week, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it, man. Like, to me, I love wrestling, but 7 days in a row is a lot. There's different shows, and kudos to people that can do it. You travel everywhere for it. You're a manager and somewhat of a wrestler yourself, I understand.
Yeah.
Where does that journey begin for you, managing and wrestling? Like, for you personally?
Sure. I was always a fan, like I said, and I for years I was a DJ. I booked music. I did a magazine. I did a radio show, and I was always a wrestling fan. But I knew that if I got to the other side of the curtain, my life would just be obsessed with it. That would be it. That'd be all I'm doing. So I put it off for a long time. And I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did, because I got in when XPW came back, and I haven't looked back since then. Now I don't DJ. Now I don't do a radio show. It's just wrestling. And I knew that was going to happen. So that's why I was kind of like, I know if I start, I'm going to get all in. So I put it off for a while. So it was around COVID time. I was helping a buddy of mine with his company, Wild Zero. And at first I was just ringing a bell. I was timekeeping the matches. And then I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do. And I just jumped right in.
I love that. And the look you have and the faction has itself, man, it's very distinctive. It's very punk rock, and I absolutely love that. Everything about you is punk rock. Like I said, I've been following you on social media for a while, and just your life is just a dream to me, man. Like you're a great person from every account that I can see, despite who you are outside the ring, taunting everybody. I find you genuinely amazing. My 15-year-old son told me to ask you this question, and I have to, because he absolutely despises you. He says, "What?" And I'll let me pull the quote up from him. He says, "What the fuck is with his voice?"
Okay. First of all, I don't like anyone that's 15. I don't care if you're the coolest kid in the world. If you're a 15-year-old kid, you're probably a snot-nosed little brat who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. First problem. Okay. Second problem, I just always kind of had a funny voice, and it never really became marketable until I got to wrestling. It was never really helpful at all at anything I did until wrestling, and then Rob Black gave me the name High Pitch Will, which I understand why that's catchy. I didn't. As soon as I was out of his company, I stopped using the name, obviously. But yeah, just always kind of had a funny voice, and most wrestling managers do have a funny voice. I've noticed. Paul Bearer has a funny voice. Jimmy Hart has a very distinctive voice.
Yep.
So wrestling managers and weird voices seem to be a thing. I don't know
Right.
why, but it just is a thing. So that's why maybe that's why I fell into it so easily.
Hey, maybe. So, you're from Rochester, New York, famously home of Brody Lee.
Yes.
You have any ties and connections with him?
I actually there was a local company called Rock City Wrestling, and it was a lot of real young guys my age that were just becoming wrestlers, and he was one of them, and he was called Huber Boy 2 at the time. And I was at a lot of those real early matches when I see the pictures and videos, and I go, he looks like a child in some of these matches. I remember seeing him, and he was always larger than life. He was always the biggest guy. He was always the most talented guy on the shows. So I have real fond memories of his early matches and him just being around. I followed his career, pretty much his entire career. Um, and I still, if you watch, there's a little short documentary WWE did on him, and they show him at the karate school in Rochester, where that's where that company would run its shows. And every time I drive by that karate school, I feel a little feel because he did mean a lot to not just me, but all the wrestlers in Rochester and people, everyone he met, he left an impression on. And I don't have any solid plans, but I'm trying to talk to some people to get a Brody Lee mural done somewhere in Rochester. It's one of my many projects on the back burner, but it's still in my mind. I want it because China is from here as well too, and
Right.
it's going to be China and Brody Lee mural somewhere in Rochester. So someday I'll get around to actually orchestrating that to happen.
Now, I knew China was from there, and that was going to be my next question. Do you have any ties to her?
A friend of mine who's older, who is probably the same age as China is, he said that she was her. He said that she was his babysitter, and he said, and maybe this is crude to say, but he said the first time he saw a naked woman's breasts was hers. And he just called her. He was like, "Yo, yeah, Joni. Yeah, Joni was wild. They put Joni in a girls' reformatory because they said she was on drugs. But man, Joni wasn't on drugs. She was just crazy." And I'm just kind of like, "Oh, tell me more. Tell me more. I want to know all about it." So yeah, a
um,
friend of mine, that was his babysitter. But that's the only China story I have.
oh, that's still amazing in itself. You had mentioned that WWE did a short doc on Brody.
Yeah,
Um, I think, and I could be wrong, and I'll have to fact check myself on this, but I believe there is a more personal documentary style that's on Tubi.
there is, and that
And
was made by a bunch of guys that I know as well. And it's like it's real long. It's
it
a it's
is.
a
But I watched it from start to finish, and I had so much more appreciative of. I've been a fan of Brody. I only became. Um, what am I trying to say? I knew who he was because of Bray Wyatt. And
yeah,
I absolutely fell in love with the Bray Wyatt faction of the Wyatt family. And I thought those three together were unstoppable.
well,
But then
absolutely,
I've seen him go to AEW and become, Brody Lee.
yeah,
And oh my God, I think he outdid his work in the Wyatts. But like just
absolutely.
that timeline, such an amazing wrestler. We lost
Oh,
way too. Same with Bray. Like,
absolutely, yes. And I think he passed away on like Christmas Eve or something, which is
yeah, it
like
was around Christmas time. And
yeah,
I
but
believe, as far as I know, Amanda and the kids still live up there, but I'm not 100% sure if they moved to Orlando or not.
I think they're down in Florida. Yeah, not to rat them out, but I think they're in
No, I
Florida.
think so. I don't think I don't think it's private knowledge. She's very outspoken.
And she
But
was she was she was a manager of a different wrestler in that company I was talking about as well. So I've known her forever as well too.
She seems like a lovely lady, and
Yeah,
it's people like China and Brody that put a small town of Rochester on the map. You
absolutely.
guys have had many like even music acts go through there, and like
Gorilla,
it's
Gorilla,
not small.
Gorilla Monsoon is from here too.
That I didn't know.
Gorilla Monsoon is here, and I know where his house was. It's like
That's
it's like
crazy.
one of those decaying, like real Italian looking mansions.
So aside from you, excuse me, aside from wrestling, you're huge into the music scene. That's what I'm told.
Yes, yes.
What is that like for you? Like, is this like another childhood dream of yours to be working in the music industry and stuff like that? Or
Well, I've never been in a band. I don't know how to play an instrument. So I was like, I love punk. What do I do to be involved?
oh, I
It
think I
was,
lost you.
can
We
you hear
got you.
me?
You're good. You're good. Yeah, yeah, you're good.
So basically, I wanted to get involved in music, but I've never been in a band. I could never play an instrument. So I started doing a zine where I interviewed musicians and I would write about local punk things and stuff like that. So my contribution was writing about the music and taking videos and taking pictures, more so the media side of it. And
Right.
then I had a radio show for a couple of years. I would interview musicians and stuff. But yeah, I've never been in a band, but I've booked shows and I've promoted artists and shows. That's what I've always done.
So you're just a natural born booker then. You're just constantly just going, hey?
But I kind of hate being the booker. I feel so bad for these promoters. I feel so bad for these bookers because it's so much work. It's so much stress. I would never want to run a wrestling company. I would never want to be a promoter because it's so much money to treat everybody right. It's so much work. It's so much stress. We have no idea how hard it is to put on a wrestling show. And I've done it before and I try not to do it as much as possible because it is so stressful. And God bless those lunatics that run wrestling companies because they're maniacs and they're mentally insane. God bless them for doing it, losing money, not getting treated like shit. God bless you guys for doing that. We appreciate you as fans and as talent.
Now, as someone that's been around the scene, and I asked this because I think you're pretty big up in Toronto scene as well for things.
Yeah.
Um, you've been to arguably a lot of the hot spots in Toronto, whether it be wrestling or music. What is your favorite venue up here in Toronto?
Um, well, I really love everything about Toronto. I'm trying to think if I have a favorite. There used to be a goth club that shut down. It was called Nocturne, I think.
Okay,
That
not
was
too
my
familiar with
favorite.
it.
That was like my favorite place I've ever been in Toronto, and it was just some goth club. And I think it's long gone at this point. I've been going up and down to Toronto for many years now. Um, my favorite, yeah, probably geez, yeah, that's kind of tough because seems like every time I go, it's some different place. There's a lot of places come and go in Toronto. It seems like.
Yeah, but the one that mainstays is the one that you guys are headed to on June 20th, and that would be Sneaky D's.
Yep,
That has been
yep,
around for my entire life, and I'm 35.
yep,
And it seems to be a staple in Toronto. The building hasn't changed much. Everything else is growing around it. But
yep.
what is a venue like that? Even going there to perform wrestling wise, what is that like for you? Because that's such an iconic building of itself in Toronto.
Sure. And a lot of places I wanted to go, like just with like Punk World, I got to go there because of wrestling. I got to perform at Skullfest in Pittsburgh, which is like the coolest punk festival. I never thought I would be on the flyer, but there I am, and wrestling got me there. We Are the Punks down in Florida, arguably the coolest punk fest in the world. How am I involved with that? A guy who's not in a band, crazy dudes cutting each other in the head. So I mean, a lot of dreams have come true in just real weird paths and real weird ways. So I've accomplished a lot of things that I didn't know were goals because of wrestling mixing with punk. And it was always my goal to mix punk and wrestling as much as possible.
I think you're doing a great job at that, especially with Total Fucking Chaos. Please tell me, how did that even get going? Where did that brainchild start with you? And how have you managed to recruit? I believe I was told all the way down in Australia at this point. How have
Yeah.
you recruited all over the world?
So when I was working for XPW, I was just Rob Black's assistant, and he would let me, manage guys or do my input, do my little funny skits and shit. But I was always like, dude, I want to start a group of guys that are like punk wrestlers, and it'll be like the NWO. And he was just kind of like, oh, like the Job Squad. And I was like, no, we like actually are like tough and cool. And he just thought punk was stupid. He just thought I was goofy and I wasn't, I couldn't lead a group like that. So when he fired me, the first thing I did was go, oh, I'm doing this. I already had my eye on Chuck Stein and my buddy Hardcore from Buffalo. And uh, I, um, I just started following as many indie wrestling companies from around the world. Doesn't matter how big or small the company was. I'm just looking at all their flyers. You know those flyers with like 30 guys on it? I'm just looking at it, and if I see a guy with a mohawk, I go, "Who's that?" And I go down this weird rabbit hole trying to find these guys. And a lot of guys I found, and they were like, "Oh, I retired from wrestling," or "I don't really leave, Allentown, Pennsylvania much," or whatever. So I just looked at all these flyers and I looked at all these flyers and in Avengers style, I was messaging guys in Texas saying like, "Hey, I'm putting together this group, Total Fucking Chaos. I want you in." And they're just like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, I'm in." And then, so I have 9 members: Texas, California, Pennsylvania, Canada, Australia, Detroit, and yeah, and then I kind of just go to where they are, so then we can do a Total Fucking Chaos thing. So they don't have to travel, but also they can come to me or we can meet up somewhere. So it's like a super group, and there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors in the way that where I'm in Texas, I'm in California, I got matches all over, but you know the reality is that I'm going down to Texas and this guy, I'm teaming up with this guy or whatever. So it looks like Total Fucking Chaos is just like everywhere. Which I mean, technically, yes, I guess it is just everywhere. So
Have you been to Australia yet then?
I've not been to Australia because Xavier Black is the guy in Australia, and he's having some health problems right now, so he's not working right now. But when he gets better and starts having matches, we'll start exploring the how do I get to Australia, because I was ready to buy. I was looking at plane tickets, and he got hurt. So there's little details like that is what only thing keeping me from going to Australia.
That's fair. I've seen a lot of clips where you more so take more beating than you probably should, man. And
Mhm.
I don't understand it. And tell me, what is it like? Because you're not by any means of the word, at least from my understanding, and I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am. You're not a wrestler by trade. Like, you are the manager by trade.
Right.
So how much work do you put in to make sure that you are bump ready at all times?
I actually I'm a student at the Ground Zero School here in Rochester, and when I say student, I mean I show up once in a while. I've learned all the basics. I can kind of do most of the moves. Um, so I'm trained enough to be a manager. I'll go into a battle royal once in a while. I can be in a tag team match. I can do stuff like that. A full-fledged one-on match, I've only had 2 or 3 of those. But
Are you strictly deathmatch, or are you a traditional manager as well?
well, in New York, there's no blood.
Right. I've heard that there's some restrictions down where you guys are.
Right. So in New York, there's no blood. So anything I do here is, yeah, just generally a family-friendly type show.
So when it comes to the deathmatch stuff, how does a manager get into the mindset of, hey, there's glass behind me that I'm going to go through at some point tonight? Maybe that's an example. I don't think you go through glass, but like I know you've probably gone through a few objects you're not very fond of. So
My goal is to make sure my guy wins, whatever that takes. Is that the 15-year-old?
I know that's the littlest one. I apologize.
That's okay.
Um,
It's my
uh,
job to make sure these guys win. So whatever that takes, that's what it takes. That's my goal. If I have to get hit with something, that's not ideal. That's not really on the cards. But I will do anything to make sure my guys win.
Right. You would have said that one of the founding people when you started the TFC was hardcore, which now, as of this date, on May 22nd, we're recording. He is no longer part of your group. You guys exiled him pretty brutally out of the group.
Yeah, he wasn't listening. He wouldn't listen. He was too busy shaking hands with the fans, kissing the babies, making everybody love him. That's not what we're about. We're about dominating. We're about just destroying the social norms. And he was doing the opposite of that. He's hanging out with these goofy fans. That's not what we're about. He took that. He was more about that than winning the matches. No, we couldn't accept that.
That's fair. I get that. Even though I think it's wrong because he's an excellent wrestler, but this is your group, not mine. And I credit you with being able, I don't know how you do it, because if it was me, I'd probably smash some fans over the head with whatever light tube I could find at ringside. Your crowd work is amazing, and it's second to none from what I could see. And that's a huge compliment to, I'm assuming, just quick-witted that you are. What is the most disturbing fan interaction you've had thus far in your career?
Okay, I'm in Rocky Top, Tennessee. And we're backstage talking to the promoter, and he goes, and I go, well, normally we're faces. He goes, oh, they're gonna boo you down here no matter what. And I go, oh, no, they normally like us. He goes, they're not gonna like you. I go, all right, whatever. And we went out there, and they fucking hated us. They did not like us. And at one point, I was knocked out of the ground, and I look up and I see, he's a Canadian, Bubbles, some Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
I see a guy with glasses that thick, and he is pointing down at me, and I really think this guy's gonna fucking kill me. he's, he's dropping the hard F word. He is just mad that I was ever born. And I go, I gotta stay away from this. That was the only time where I was like, I need to stay away from this side of the ring, because this fan is about to kill somebody. And it might be me. This guy is out of goddamn control. And this guy was a little scary. He was like Bubbles, but kind of big,
That's a scary thought in itself, because
That was a scary thought. It was a scary looking guy. And I'm in Rocky Top, Tennessee. Nobody's got my back. Like, I'm on my own.
right. I
That's
have no idea where that is, so that's even worse, right? Like,
all I can tell you is that I drove past the Kentucky Fried Chicken Museum on the way there. That's all I know.
well, fuck, Kyle would be happy.
Kyle was not with me, unfortunately, but I would love to take Kyle to the Kentucky Fried Chicken Museum someday.
I'm sure the fights there in that parking lot would be amazing.
It seemed like kind of a chill place, but you're probably
right. So you'd said that this guy down there in Tennessee was dropping the hard F word. Given the fact that you're such heavy into punk that you are, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, and please don't take it this way, the Voice, do you get hated on a lot or described as maybe a member of that community because of just who you are?
Not really, because I think one, because I have the sense of humor is always my best friend. I've never really gotten picked on because I'm too funny. It's hard to kind of bully me because I'm too funny. So no, I've never really felt bullied, or like picked on or discriminated against, because I feel very confident with who I am and what I'm doing.
As you should. Like, there's no reason not to.
Mm-hmm. So no, I've never had that problem, and my heart breaks for people who do have that issue, for sure.
And again, I meant no offense in that. It was just a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Given the fact that you're at least well traveled in North America at this point, do you run into incidences in locker rooms where guys aren't received well in that sense, where like they get bullied a lot, and like, have you seen a lot of it in your journeys? I don't want any names by any means. Like, I'm not asking for company names or anything like that.
I noticed that it's a lot better than it used to be, and I've only been involved the time that I have, but based on things that some of the older guys say, and based on things we've heard just on like shoot interviews and stuff. None of that stuff flies in modern wrestling. People, all these guys are closer to being like nerds than like tough guys at this point. And I don't say that in a derogatory way, but most
Right.
of these guys are into video games and their families, and the other ones are into going to the gym and shit. There's not guys really. The party scene's not really existent. It's hard to find the party nowadays, and I'm fucking looking for the party.
So
It's hard.
essentially, what you're saying is the old boys club is almost gone from wrestling.
I think the old boys club is long gone. I think it's very much gone. Um, and when I do run into the older guys that have survived till today are just the chillest, most polite guys, because the guys that were bullies, the guys that were assholes, they either straightened up or they got out. And I don't think they were pushed out. I just think that the old school mentality is pretty much non-existent.
That's fair. Man, respectfully, did you meet your beautiful girlfriend within wrestling, or is that the punk rock scene? Or tell me, how'd you find the love of your life here?
So I was just on we were just friends on Instagram, and we were talking for a while, and we were talking a lot. And then luckily I got booked on a wrestling show in Portland where she lives. So I was like, hey, good news. I'm actually getting paid to fly out there now and hang out. And that's when we met. So she was not a wrestling fan or not a wrestling fan, but the first day that we met in real life, I brought her to a wrestling show I was on, and I was cut in the head with a gusset plate. So within an hour of meeting in real life, I was bleeding profusely from my face.
I love that.
But
That's,
that didn't scare her away.
that's definitely a Shakespeare story in the making, right there.
Yeah.
Growing up, what was it like for you growing up in Rochester? Like, not even just wrestling wise, like just in general. Tell me about Will growing up, man.
Sure. The TV was my best friend. I was always into TV, movies, wrestling, books. Um, so Andy Kaufman, all Roddy Piper, a lot of wrestlers, old comedians, old TV shows, old movies, old music. And I kind of graduated from comedy, music, Dr. Demento type stuff to punk. So I was very lucky to really avoid mainstream shit pretty much my entire life.
You're just the embodiment of the underground scene, eh?
Yeah, and I don't know how I got to be. I consider myself to be pretty lucky that things worked out that way because I was exposed to the right things, caught on to the right things, and didn't, I never had like a phase. I don't have like a phase I'm embarrassed of. You know what I mean?
I love that. I mean, I am in my life, but that's another story for another day. Um, I started this
You were a juggalo. Is that what you're telling me?
little bit.
Okay.
Little
That's
bit.
nothing to be ashamed of. A lot of
No,
guys.
but growing up where I did in a predominantly old school mentality town where that wasn't acceptable. It was almost like the footloose bullshit, right? Where that's not in. And I look back on it, and it's not something I fondly remember because of the experiences that I dealt with.
Sure. Yeah.
That's life, right? We learn. I started this project like 5 years ago, or excuse me, wow, we're in 2026.
Yeah.
6 years ago, when me and Scal, my producer and co-founder of Off the Top, sat down, we had envisioned. We took our buddies, Steven, aka Vibes. He wanted to start a wrestling podcast, and he passed away, and so we kind of his podcast was called $10 Microphone, and we had kind of took it upon ourselves to continue on for him, and we ultimately with the Off the Top name, and we've continued now 6 years going for him. Me and Scales weren't the best of friends, but like this is something I was passionate about. Scales is amazing what he does and produces and the video content he puts out, and I get to sit and interview cool people like you and talk to all these indie guys and musicians and stuff that I get to talk to. So I guess in a sense, like for me, like you, I love the radio aspect. I know this isn't radio, but this is like the aspect of it in today's world.
Yep.
And man, it's so different. Like with growing up the way I did, being my parents were hard-nosed people. I was doing a lot of sports and stuff like that. And to come in, wrestling was always that one thing that never changed.
Mm-hmm.
And now being
Mm-hmm.
able to, in a sense, live my childhood dream and talk to wrestlers and pick
Yeah.
their brains and managers and this, it's an awesome experience.
Oh yeah. And wrestling has given me things that I never thought I would get. I've gotten to travel, meet cool peoples. Do produce, have an excuse to produce so many funny videos and stuff. And I mean, those are the things I want to do. Make funny videos. I love wrestling, obviously, and then travel. Those are my things that I like to do. So wrestling has somehow given me all those things, which I'm very grateful for.
Now, I assume, and again, assuming is always could be a bad thing, could be a good thing. I assume that Will Carroll is you turned all the way up to like 50.
Absolutely, absolutely. I Yeah, absolutely. I don't change a lot, obviously. And so it's a little bit of trickiness because what is the wrestler Will Carroll like? That the real Will Carroll's like, and that's kind of what I don't know. I'm still wearing, the same vest I wear when I go out there, when I go to the bar. So should there be some more of a difference? I don't know.
I think the best personalities, there is none. But my next question, because I do tend to ask this a lot, do you ever have issues, in a sense, turning off that switch from the performative to normal?
No, because I'm lucky enough that I can live in a really cartoon life. I don't have like a real job. I kind of just do whatever I want most of the day. So I don't really have to, honestly, to think people want me to be funny all the time because I'm always making funny videos. I'm always just kind of not the life of the party, but a good comedic uh, interlude to whoever's life. So no, I really don't have to turn it off, and I'm totally comfortable with that. To be honest with you.
Fair enough. What is your thoughts on the Canadian deathmatch scene that's starting to become more and more relevant now?
That's really a cool question because the first time I saw deathmatch was in Canada because we don't have it in New York. And even when ECW would come here, they couldn't really do as much as they would normally. So the first time I saw deathmatch was at the Rock Pile in Toronto. And I drove there just to see that, just to see, like, holy fuck, there are guys bleeding and cutting each other not too far from my house. And this is it. And Detroit, too. I would go to Detroit as a fan and go to XICW. Um, but yeah, I love Canada. I love Canada so much. As soon as I cross the border, my phone stops working, but I know my way around Toronto without the GPS pretty well. I know how to get there and get back. And I love Toronto. I love Canada. I've always kind of considered myself an honorary Canadian. So to be able to hang out there and meet Canadians and be on the shows in Canada, it means a lot to me because I really do love Canada, despite things I've said in promos.
Hey man, I mean that's all Canada is Canada. I mean, I feel a certain way and I live here.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's always where you live is always gonna suck.
That's a true fact.
Yeah.
I've said to other people that I've interviewed, and I say it to everyday people that I talk to, with respect to what deathmatch was in Canada before this, I truly believe that Canadian deathmatch is changing the scene in
I think
Ontario, whether it be traditional or just deathmatch. They
I
are
think
getting talent up here that may not have been here before,
Mhm.
exposing Canadian markets to talent they've never seen before. I
Yep,
feel like it's thriving, and they're doing such a great job there.
I agree, and I think it's run by people that really care about what the product looks like. It's run by people that really care about the workers. It's done by people that really care about the fans. Anything you put a lot of love into and take good care of will turn out good. I believe that fully, and they're putting a lot of love and compassion into this. And the production always looks good. Um, Everyone involved, I consider a friend, and so they're doing everything right. They're taking care of everybody. They are, I mean, they're new. They're new to it. They're only a year in, and
Yep.
there's still going to be hiccups and bumps on the road. But I think they're handling those hiccups and bumps on the road really well. And I've seen so many wrestling companies start strong and fail, start strong and fail. And this is not one of them. This is one that is still climbing. So I'm really proud to be involved with those guys.
This past April at Crazy 8 was my first in-person deathmatch event.
Okay.
I've watched lots online. I've seen clips, but I'll say this till the fucking cows come home at this point.
Yeah.
Nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to watching something live, especially deathmatch. It's a whole different atmosphere. It's such an intimate atmosphere. I had said, me and Tyler Arrow spoke just with the interview before this one. It's a very intimate thing when you go to a place like, oh my God, the Germania, and it's closed in perfectly to the point where everybody is involved, but everything is such perfectly placed. And I truly felt like being there, I felt like at home. I felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself. Whereas if I was to go to a WWE show or AEW or TNA, I'm just a guy watching the show. I don't feel like I'm involved, I'm a background character. But when you go to indie shows, not just deathmatch, but indie shows in general, you're so big, a bigger part than most shows.
Yep. And that venue especially is really cool. That's a really cool venue. But you interviewed Tyler Arrow. That had to be boring. That had to be really boring for you. How did you get through that? He's a boring guy.
I didn't find him boring. I found him entertainment. We talked about his clash with one of your boys, Brandon St. James, and how he took him out.
What?
He took him out there at the Crazy 8. How did you feel about that?
That was some bullshit. Yeah, that was absolutely some bullshit, and he got lucky. People really like Tyler Arrow for some reason. You know, Canadians, they mean well, but they're not the smartest people. And they were cheering for Tyler Arrow and Brian Samuels, another idiot. And these guys think everybody loves them. They get this little burst of energy. Maybe we make one tiny little mistake and then they win, and then now we lost, and that's just the type of bullshit that happens in wrestling sometimes.
Listen,
And
I'm
as
on your.
I'm trying to make sure that shit doesn't happen, but sometimes it does, and it's real. It sucks.
I have to agree on the Brian Samuels and Kyle match, man. I don't think Kyle. I'm pretty sure Kyle kicked out. I think the ref screwed him.
Well, we hate referees. We've had nothing but trouble with referees from the beginning. Referees are untrustworthy. They're untrained. They're selfish. They're just trying to get themselves over. They can barely count the fucking three. We don't need referees. I would rather have we can count ourselves. We don't need you out there. I don't need you looking at me when I'm doing. I don't need that.
I would say that Brian probably had him in a pocket, but we all know Brian don't have pockets. So
yeah, there's something up with this guy's pockets. I don't want to just.
I want to talk about a subject, and before I do, ladies and gentlemen, we are hitting a conversation that might extend a little bit. So please be known, it is a trigger warning. We are going to talk about Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
I spoke to Will beforehand, and we started to have a conversation. I wanted to save it for this so you all hear it first. But I have to trigger warn because people don't want to hear it and people don't want to experience it. So,
especially in Canada, because he was a Canadian hero.
Right. And I just want to make sure that I cover my due diligence and make sure everything's done right. So, guys, if you don't want to listen, skip forward 10 minutes or longer. Figure it out when you hit that button. But that's your warning. I'll be doing. Now, Will.
We're going to be saying nice things about Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit, I believe Chris Benoit deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I believe that Chris Benoit was a great wrestler.
Yeah, and a great champion.
He's arguably one of the greatest of the 21st century.
Yeah, he's real good. He's tough too. He would beat the fuck out of somebody. He was tough.
Now, you had told me something in the conversation we were talking about this, and I want to hear your analysis and whatever that is you want to speak on it. When it comes to Chris Benoit, I don't believe he's guilty of what he did.
Same. What he's accused of.
Right.
Yes.
But no matter how you want to look at it. But I want to hear your opinions and thoughts on it. So by all means, there's the mic. Let me hear you talk.
Thank you. I'm in a couple Chris Benoit conspiracy theory Facebook groups, and they post things every day. One of the most solid things is that Chris Benoit's residence was found to have an insane amount of pills, steroids, and drugs, way more than one man would ever need, which would unfortunately allude to the fact that he was probably involved in some sort of drug smuggling or selling ring. The WWE was getting in some hot water about where some steroids and drugs were coming from, and that coincided a little too closely with Benoit's incident. And I mean, the Wikipedia page thing that's insane. The Wikipedia page was updated that Benoit missed a pay-per-view because his wife died. And then that was deleted. That Wikipedia update was traced back to the WWE headquarters.
Right, but
And
then it
then,
was pinned on some kid.
yeah, but why did that happen?
Can't prosecute a kid for it.
Why would that happen? Is there a kid just going on to random Wikipedia pages and saying, this guy missed this random pay-per-view because this random person died? Come on.
It's probably some
No.
15-year-old though.
Why doesn't that happen like every day then to every wrestler? Why would that specifically happen to him on the night that it really happened? That's too insane of a coincidence. That's insane. No. And I don't believe that a 15-year-old kid did it. I think someone in some syndicate fucked something up, and probably some guy on a phone, in a phone booth somewhere, like, okay, all right, update the Wikipedia page now. No, not yet. No, take it down, take it down. I bet there was some criminal element dudes panicking when that went up on accident. It was done sloppily. The fact
Very
that
much
things
so.
like that the fact that things like that happened proves that something was botched, something was sloppy. They didn't do a good job of hiding the fact that what they are trying to present happened.
Yeah, there's like they left out that the room temperatures were way hotter than they should have been at that time, and the decomposition of a body changed, and all this, and Chavo Guerrero's text message, "Oh, the dogs are here." Like that doesn't make sense. You know where he lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
No.
weird grumbling tech voice calls, and there's just a lot to it. For me, I truly believe, and I think we would have got answers had the fucker not died. I truly believe it was Kevin Sullivan that executed whatever happened at that house that night.
Yeah.
What I think happened, I have two theories.
Yeah.
One being maybe Chris did unalive Nancy in a dispute, because there's evidence that they had disputes. That
Sure.
you can argue that till the cows come home. That was never a hidden fact. A lot of people seen it and they understood it. So that's not out of the realm. I don't think he unalived Daniel. But what I think happened is Chris was supposed to be away at Night of Champions that night, and I think Nancy was having an affair, and Chris found out, and that went down. And then Kevin came over thinking, oh, Chris is gone, so now we can live the life for the weekend, and knowing he'd be gone for like 6 days on the road. And I think Kevin unalived Daniel and Chris, because just the evidence alone, I've looked at those machines over and over again, because every time I see them, I look at them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I've tried to do this, but I've put my own weight on it, and it doesn't make sense for one person to do that.
I agree.
The other theory is similar. Is Kevin just could have done it all. I believe Kevin Sullivan was the man behind it all.
Okay.
And because just the whole history between the three of them.
Sure.
And there's just but like for him to come up to where he was dying days here recently, I think he died in the last 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
It might have been last year. Like, I don't keep up with deaths. But he said, I got something to say, and I'll tell you before I die. And then he died. And then the family went hush-hush about it.
That's suspicious. Very suspicious.
Right? It's just a lot to me. when I talk about Chris Benoit with wrestlers a lot, that's one of my favorite questions to ask because either I get a genuine fuck that guy, or I get a person like you who has a brain to understand like everything. Not saying that people are saying fuck that guy don't have a brain, but people just see what they want to hear, and that's it. That's the end.
Of
But then there's
course.
people like me and you who like to put the tinfoil hat on and dive.
Yeah, and I genuinely believe that if it was some crazy drug smuggling situation, things like that happen all the goddamn time. You know what I mean? Someone was trying to rob him. He pissed off someone in some cartel. Vince McMahon sent someone over there because he was worried Benoit would get busted. Something went wrong. There's so many. Once you factor in as much crime element to it, anything could have happened. Anything could have happened.
Right, and Vince McMahon isn't exactly a person that's shying away from hiding a
Criminal
murder
activity. Yeah.
because he did it with Jimmy Snuka. He hid a murder for decades.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. So I wouldn't put any of that past him, especially, or the type of people that he's. I mean, if Benoit got busted for some crazy drug crime steroid scandal, it would have fucked up his company. You know what I mean? And
100%.
his interest is to protect his company. So who knows what the fuck happened? We'll
Especially
never,
after the early '90s things with Hogan, they can't have it happen again.
yeah, we'll never know what happened. We can just conspiracy theory. But the fact that there was that many illicit drugs in the dude's house screams that bad dudes are going to look for him. Bad dudes brought him there. Bad dudes are involved.
And it's also unfortunate, like the actual investigation was handled so poorly.
Of
Uh,
course.
walking on crime scenes, not documenting things properly.
Of course.
Unfortunately, like you said, we're always going to have theories because at the end of the day, the only people that know what happened are the three people in that house that when it happened, or the
Right.
more. Like, obviously, there's more, but the only three are now dead and can't tell you anything.
Exactly. And you brought up the Snuka thing. Vince fucked up a murder trial somehow. Why he could do it again? He's got the money, he's got the resources to be like, hey, handle this as fucked up as you possibly can, so that all the clues are all fucked up, and make sure we never get real answers. And that's that. I fully believe that he would have done that.
The cartel thing doesn't seem that far outlandish when you think of conversations that Chris had with fellow wrestlers up until the point of his death, saying people are following him, and
Yeah.
there was a lot to it that just went ignored. But I don't believe that they ever should have erased him from history. They didn't erase Jimmy.
Right.
Um,
The murder of the woman that Jimmy was with never really got out there. It was pre-internet.
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure it fucked up Jimmy Snuka's career, but it never really got out there. He was out of
and you
jail
could
the
argue
next day.
though, see that's the problem too, because the internet really boomed, if you will, around
Mhm.
the era of Benoit's murder, Benoit's
Yeah,
tragedy.
yeah.
So it took off the way it did. ESPN had it, everybody had it,
Hmm.
but I truly believe, at least in my heart of hearts, even if you want to say, and I'll play devil's advocate, okay, he did it, whatever, but he should not be erased for his contribution to the
Sure,
wrestling industry
sure.
because you don't get some iconic moments if you let it. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And also, isn't it a little suspicious that they reacted that way? Let's just pretend this guy never was born. That's a little
Yeah,
suspicious on the WWE's part.
yeah, and they could have just said they could have even just changed the history, say Pegasus Kid, and left it at that.
Or is that worse? That might actually be worse.
But you know what I mean? They could have altered it in some way just to keep like you can't. How do you bring up Eddie Guerrero nowadays and not bring up Chris Benoit?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I know, the younger guys, I mean, I go to the wrestling school, kids are in their early 20s. They don't know who these guys are already. These things have already been lost to time. But Chris Benoit was a top 10 guy for a good minute. He was never the top guy, but he was a top guy for a while. What he did and what he contributed is very important to where wrestling is. He was a smaller guy. He could. He was a workhorse. Which, I mean, imagine if he hadn't have died. What type of matches he could have had with like an AJ Styles and
Right.
all these guys. CM
Same
Punk.
era too, right? So it wouldn't have been out of the realm of a possibility.
And let's look at everything Jericho did. He went to AEW and killed it. That could have been Benoit with him. That but he could have. He wasn't anywhere near being done. He had a.
Not
He
by any
still
means.
had a. I mean, Jericho's still going. I put him and Jericho in the same camp. I
Yeah.
mean, Benoit would still be wrestling today. I think still
I
main
I
event shit.
truly believe that had like Owen Hart, Eddie Guerrero, Benoit not passed when they did, all in their primes.
Mhm.
Uh, if Owen had just made it to WWE, not F like as he was, but if he would have just made it to WWE, he would have been the greatest heart of all time.
Yeah, I think
Because
so.
WWE's I idolize all I okay, Jesus, I'm struggling. Ideal wrestler is what everything Owen was. He could wrestle and he
Yep,
was comedic.
yep.
He
And I
would have
mean,
been perfect.
and he was gone before Eddie and all them guys showed up. Jericho. All those guys showed up a few years later. I mean, Jericho versus Owen Hart. That would have been a main event match right there.
I stand by this to this day, and I don't care if you love Bret Hart. I don't care of anything. Owen was the better Hart, hands down.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
Technical wrestler, Bret has it, but overall wrestler, it's Owen. It's 100% Owen.
I'll dispute that though, because all the Bret Hart matches are very, very, very similar. He does the same moves. He does the same shtick. I think Owen was more talented because Owen could adapt to other guys better, and that's
Right.
why he ended up being kind of a fall guy so often because he could wrestle anybody, whereas Bret kind of relied on doing the same shtick every time.
Well,
So
all I gotta do,
I actually do think Owen is better than Bret.
yeah. I guess I wasn't ever really a big fan of Bret, so I never really studied much of him. I just see what I know and hear.
You need to be careful what you say because you can be deported from Canada for saying that.
Hey, let me shut it all out. Fuck Bret Hart.
You're a Mountie on a horse. A
I
Mountie on a
truly
horse is
do
going to be
not give a fuck
outside
about
your
Bret
front
Hart.
lawn, and he's going to tase you to the ground, and they're going to
That's
throw you over Niagara Falls. That's what's going to happen to you.
oh well, worth it. Um, no, I truly despise that man, and I think Goldberg should have kicked him a little harder. But anyway,
Oh,
what's he gonna do?
yeah. He's
Put
going to
me into
show
this?
you out.
You gonna talk about me for the next 20 years like he does Goldberg? Fuck me. Anyway,
He'll be like, that Shadowsphere show? Fuck those motherfuckers.
there's this guy on the internet in Shadowsphere. He's a real dick. Yeah, fuck off. Anyway, well, man, the conversation has been great, and I'm appreciating every bit of this conversation. And I love learning that you were just a snot-nosed kid from Rochester who loves wrestling and just loves to be that guy for everybody.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, whether it's with TFC faction blowing up and heading to one of the TV companies? Because it's got to happen. It's got to.
Sure.
But where do you want to go in the next 5?
My goal for the year was to start working for New Fear City, which we got stuff coming up with them. And I want to go work in Mexico. I know it's not a great time to do that, but it's on my goal list. I do believe if I met Billy Corgan from the NWA, he would get what I'm doing and he would like me. So I need to be in a room with Billy Corgan. I could see myself being in the NWA for sure.
Fair enough. Where do you want to see TFC in the next 5 years?
I really like the way the train is moving. I like it when we can get more guys together. The amount of deathmatch companies is always fluctuating. So it's finding a deathmatch company with enough money to fly a guy in is tricky. But I'd like to do more events with more of us together. I mean, anytime there's 3 of us in a room together, that's fucking awesome. And June 20th, it's going to be me, Kyle, and Chuck in Toronto. I'm really looking forward to that. But anytime we can get together, that's the goal. But I like the way this train is moving. I mean, obviously GCW I think a couple of us would do really good in GCW. But I don't. I mean, I've done ring crew for GCW, and I just kind of mind my own business. I'm not sucking up to Brett Lauderdale or anything, But I'll let the work speak for itself with that. But certain companies, I'm like, hey, what's up? Here we are. Blah blah blah. I have
Yeah.
resumes ready for everyone. I try to keep this as professional as possible. I know where I want to go, and right now it's New Fear City.
Hell yeah. I will pay arguably a compliment that I think you'll really love, considering you're a big wrestling guy. I could see TFC becoming the Bullet Club of North America.
We'd have to lose some weight.
I could see it though, in the sense of death match at least.
Sure.
Um, That being said, Will, I'm gonna wrap this up, but man, you've been a fantastic guest, and I appreciate your time. I want to have you on again and chit chat. I'm hoping to head to Sneaky D's here on the 20th of June.
You don't want to miss someone because Chuck Stein's going to be there. Kyle's going to be there. It's going to be a bang. It's going to be a banger. But was this podcast better than the one you did with Tyler Arrow? That's the only question I have for you.
Listen, we'll let the people decide. I got to be impartial.
The people don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Hey, most of my fans are American, so you might get lucky.
But now I know I'm fucked. Now I know.
No, man, they don't like Canadians. They don't even watch me. They're here for the laws. I know, but I enjoyed it. It was really good. I love hearing the stories, and I love the fact that we could shoot the shit about Chris Benoit, because not many people want to touch that subject.
I'll talk about it all night.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are out and about and you see Will Carroll on the card, go up, give him the finger, give him a handshake. Make sure you're just supporting TFC and all his boys, and including Will himself. Make sure you're showing the boys love and girls. I know he's going to get some rostered girls going here, but man, Will, thank you. I can't thank you enough for the time. You're a busy man to get a hold of, and I appreciate that you've worked me into your schedule.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a podcast in part by Canadian Deathmatch Wrestling. It's a project that I've been working on, and I get the joy of speaking with a bunch of indie guys and girls on the scene doing the things they love and hearing the backstories to them. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow. That is Will Carroll. This has been the Shadowsphere. Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.